If you are in process of preparing your PR application, there's one super important thing to know is that IRCC is not going to request additional documents if you haven't submitted any of the documents or some of the documents that are not according to the requirements of that PR program. IRCC simply is not going to babysit your application. So this is what we're talking about today. Today I have with me Cory Weber, RCIC, and myself, Olena Weber, also regulated Canadian immigration consultant. All right, Cory. So let's talk about this really misconception that we see so often is that a lot of clients come to us with refusals. They come to us with a returned application, and first question they always ask is that how come IRCC didn't request this from me? Like they could have just told me that like my police certificate is wrong, or they could have just told me that employment letter was missing a date and I could have just requested a new one from your employer, from my employer. So they're always surprised, like why IRCC didn't communicate their mistakes to them. So what would you say about
I'd say that you should have thought of that before you applied and done the right thing up front. So yeah, we see this all the time where IRCC is not, they're not obliged to just, if they're not happy with something, they can of course just refuse you. Absolutely. That's their right. And if you, think you're owed a service by them of, requesting this or that, if they're not happy, that's not the way this works, right? Your job as an applicant, no matter what stream or what immigration pathway you're going under, is to understand what's required of you before you apply, and apply properly, right? And make sure you're eligible, make sure you have all the proper documents. There's a ton of information out there on what you need to apply. They provide, like IRCC themselves, they provide document checklists, they provide all of the requirements to you. And if you are unable to meet those requirements, yes, it's within their rights, absolutely, to refuse your application outright, right? There's no rule that says they have to come back and request additional documents from you. And I see this a lot, like with consultations I'm having with people, and they're fully aware of what they're doing. Like what they say, like, well, I know this employment letter might not be the best, I'm missing this, or the job duties really don't like match the NOC code perfectly, but I'm just gonna put it in and hope that it's fine. And then they somehow are surprised when they get a refusal because those job duties didn't match, or the NOC code, was incorrect, or whichever thing, like you said, the dates are missing, or the police certificate, was not valid because they had been living in the country, when they received it, and then used like one that they shouldn't have used, right? So yeah, the answer to the question is just do it right the first time and make sure that you're meeting all the requirements, you're uploading all the documents that you should be, and you should be fine then, right? We hope.
Yes, and I think it's just a mindset thing from applicants is that applicants really need to understand how it works from like legal point of view. Is that from legal point of view, the burden is ultimately on applicant to meet the requirements, and not just to meet the requirements, but demonstrate that they're meeting the requirements,
Exactly.
right? And you really have to approach your application with that mindset that the burden is on applicant to meet their requirements. It's not on IRCC to drag out correct
Information.
documentation,
Exactly.
like pulling teeth from
Exactly.
the applicant.
Well, just like to add to that, like for example, like the requirement to prove for your employment is that you did all the job duties from the NOC code, or not all, but like most of the job duties from the NOC code and the lead statement of the NOC code, as well as you need to be show that you were compensated, right, for your work. And so a lot of people will just provide an employment letter and no pay stubs, no nothing, no tax documents, just an employment letter. So okay, maybe you've proved that you were doing the job duties and the NOC code stuff, but you didn't prove that you were compensated at all. So you're not fulfilling the requirements of IRCC's rules, right? And this is part of the problem. And I know what people will say is like, well, my friend did that in 2021 and they were fine and everything was perfect. And but that might have been true for 2021 or two or three, but we're in 2025. The numbers of immigrants which Canada is accepting is going down. The PR levels are going down. And it is not the time right now to mess around with this kind of thing and just, mail it in. You have to be very sure that your application is going to succeed, because it might be your only shot. Your work permit might be expiring soon. And, you think, well, my friend was fine. Well, you might not be, because they are being very tough on applications right now. And we're seeing a ton of it, of like, outright refusals, or, in some cases, procedural fairness letters as well, but a lot of just outright refusals.
Most of them rightful refusals. Like most of them, people just email us like at least a couple times a week. We receive an email saying like, "Oh my gosh, I got refused. Here's attached refusal. Can I book an urgent consultation?" And then the person would book a consultation. We'll look at their refusal. And we're like, sorry, that was a rightful refusal. Like, there, can we apply for reconsideration? Well, you can try, but it's most likely not going to work because IRCC was right. Like they acted according to the book.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so unfortunately that's the case. And going back to your point that, but my friend applied, is that another thing what we hear a lot of times is that, but I submitted this for my work permit or for my study permit and it was fine. So that's, again, I feel like very common thing to say, because if your study permit 5 years ago or 3 years ago was fine, that has nothing to do with your PR application.
Exactly. And yeah, you have to also know that there's not the level of scrutiny on a study permit, or let's say work permit, postgrad work permit is low compared to the scrutiny on a permanent residence application, right? Somebody, with a work permit application, you might have just been approved by artificial intelligence. They have those programs which just approve things. But with PR, yes, they do use AI with PR, but it's much more scrutinized application, right? You're not just applying for a visitor visa. So yeah, and you have to consider that when you're applying, that what might have worked in the past is not necessarily going to work now. It's in a very important application, your PR, right? So I say, like, take it seriously, and yeah, like, just make sure you're doing your best job. Put all your work and effort into getting a complete, proper application in. Yeah.
Exactly. And we're putting this video out not because we want to like scare you or anything like that, but because we really want you to take it seriously. And all of the information is available on the government website. If you want to do it completely by yourself, it's totally possible. It's there, it's available. Just make sure you read the information. And if you are not able to research or to read the instructions or to figure out what is the right way to apply, then you can always contact us or any other immigration consultants or lawyers. Doesn't really matter. But the point here is just that you actually take it diligently and responsibly, because especially if conservatives come to power, things may shift to the even worse, right? So it truly, like, if you receive invitation to apply for PR, you mess it up, you get either like returned application or refusal, you may not get another invitation to apply. Exactly. And that's what it is, right? That's just a reality. So we're always just trying to be real with people in that way, is that like, look, unfortunately, that's how things are. The second chance is not guaranteed. All right. Thank you so much for today, Cory. And guys, please subscribe to our growing channel and comment any questions you have.